On government, we have Ateneo A. On opposition, we have. Sorry. On opposition, we have kita tak menang, tak balik. My name is Kimberly. I'll be your chair. And alongside me is Aloysius, Kara, Christina, Rui Jun, Dinosaurus, Kurt, Maya, and Minamri. Just a couple of house rules before we begin. Please turn off your phones or just keep it on vibrate. Do not disturb the speakers. Only leave the hall in between speeches and not during. Just please don't distract the teams nor the judges. We would really appreciate that. All right. On the motion that this House, as an LGBT Malaysia, would choose to stay in the closet, I invite the Honourable Prime Minister. Here.
Yeah.
The table is so small. Hello? Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, what is our stance? So, as an LGBT person in Malaysia, we will stay in the closet. We won't tell anyone, our friends, our family, even if we think that that person is close to us or might accept us, that we are an LGBT individual. We'll also not look into maybe dating other people, going into relationships. We'll really just stay in the closet. There are two things to note in this debate. Number one, us on government, we can't predict what the world will look like in Malaysia in the future, right? But we're going to prove to you that right now, as Malaysia looks like right now, it is best for an LGBT individual to stay in the closet. And number two, we think that this debate should be judged on the perspective of an individual. So what is the best for that individual, not what is the best maybe for the movement as a whole. So first, what does Malaysia look like for an LGBT individual? So we think that there are three possible scenarios: a conservative scenario, an ultra-conservative scenario, and a liberal scenario. So we see that there are some liberal pockets like Petalinjaya, like Damansara, but majority of the areas in Malaysia are still conservative, right? You have ultra-conservative areas like Kelantan, but you also have within liberal cities, right? You have conservative pockets like Shah Alam. You also have, in status quo, the resurgence of Islamic fundamentalism, right? After the loss of DN, you have PAS, a political Islamic party, funding madrasas that espouse ultra-conservative, anti-LGBT rhetoric. And you have all around you within Southeast Asia, places in Indonesia and in Brunei, actually rejecting LGBT individuals. What does this mean? So it means that while there is a liberal context, there is a conservative and ultra-conservative context, it is likely that if you are a random Malaysian that is born into this world as an LGBT individual, it's probably that you're going to be born into this conservative context, right? Because this is on average like what Malaysia is, and on average the majority of the places. So we think that this is the most important context to engage with first. So on the conservative context, so we think that it is still criminal right now in Malaysia to be a homosexual and to engage in homosexual acts, especially if you're a Malay individual, right? Which is the probability again that you will be born into, because statistically there are more Malays in Malaysia, right? So for example, you have Anwar Ibrahim, who was jailed for sodomy, right? So we think that this means that you're likely to face these types of forms of discrimination. But aside from that, I'll take you in a while. You also have things like the lack of anti-discrimination laws. So in conservative areas, you could literally be denied your job. You could literally be fired and refuse economic empowerment and be economically disenfranchised just because of your sexuality. You also face things like social disenfranchisement, right? Because you are in a conservative context, you will lose your connections to your friends, to your family, to your religious community, because they probably won't accept you for being LGBT. Before I move on to the ultra-conservative context, yeah.
Throughout all of history, all progressive movements have been spearheaded by the brave few who are willing to sacrifice their lives now for a better future. Why should this individual be any different?
Okay, so she's talking about a brave few, right? We're only talking about one single individual. She has to prove to us why many individuals are going to likely want to do this, right? Or why it's likely best for those individuals. But even if they want to argue about rights, like we're still going to engage in that debate. Just have to wait a little bit, right? So on this ultra-conservative context, right, where this is where the harms that LGBT people face are really the worst, right? Like in Kelantan, for example, you literally fear for your own safety just because you are gay, right? They have things like gay therapy that causes emotional and psychological trauma that can't be undone for the years and years to come. Where you have abusive parents, right? You're beaten by your other family members just because you are gay. We think that this is where LGBT individuals are extremely, extremely vulnerable. And we don't think that they should come out in this instance. But they'll tell us the liberal context exists. So we already told you that that's not really like the majority of cases in this debate, but even then, like you can still be criminalized for being gay in Kuala Lumpur, right? But we think that unlike us debaters, where we fully accept LGBT individuals, if you look at the trends in Malaysia, the vast acceptance of LGBT individuals is not genuine acceptance, but it is mere tolerance, right? Where you accept these individuals largely because they are comedic, larger than life, flamboyant, and they fit the stereotype of this fun person who you want to be your gay best friend, right? So if you look at YouTube, for example, or popular Malaysian TV shows, these are the gay individuals that we see, where they constantly exaggerate their gayness. Why is this not genuine? Why is this flimsy acceptance? This is flimsy because as a gay individual, if you come out, you still can't be yourself, right? You still have to fit this stereotype in order to be considered as a true LGBT individual by the people around you, right? So you can't be gay and you can't be not flamboyant, or you can't like sports. You're an LGBT individual, right? And especially if you look at how these areas are incredibly expensive, right? Like rent, for example, in Damansara is 2,000 ringgit. You think that this is only for the most privileged individuals, and you as an LGBT person from somewhere else in Malaysia can simply just move here and make your life there, right? So you think that this is like mostly an irrelevant context. But what is the conclusion to this argument? The conclusion in this argument is that, one last level, that we think that it just, even in these liberal areas, you just need one conservative person to mess up your life, right? Like an auntie who will cut off your allowance, like for example, a professor who will fail you because you are gay. In conclusion, we think that there are small but speculative rather, but very small marginal benefits to coming out, and we prove the assured harms of coming out. But even more than that, they have to tell us why it is likely to be the priority of this individual, that like why being an LGBT individual is at the forefront of their identity, why it is their priority in life, right? For example, if I am a poor Malaysian, my like priority is going to be to want to get a job, right? My priority maybe is to want to connect to my family because I love them more than I love my own sexuality. So these are things that complex LGBT like individuals have, and we don't think that it should be forced upon them to like have to come out, or forced upon them that this is should be the main part of their identity. Thanks.
I thank Prime Minister for that speech. I'd like to invite Leader of Opposition. Here.
My speech will argue why it is easier to get rights and protections for LGBT people, the point at which you are campaigning as a straight individual versus you campaigning as an openly gay individual. So it is better to stay in the closet to lobby for the rights and protections that you want to fight for. But before that, a few responses. The first thing I have to clarify is they want to assert that this person is likely to be privileged because that's the only way that they could have been gay. Ladies and gentlemen, being gay is an innate thing. Being trans and having gender dysmorphia is an innate thing. You don't require a professor to teach you that you are gay, so you cannot make the assertion that this person is privileged and therefore can protect themselves from all the impacts of their actions. The response to a lot of the layers of analysis coming from Ina about the harm was just to say, well, there are trends to improve, like RuPaul's Drag Race being shown, and there are gay bars in Kuala Lumpur. This does first and foremost explain why right now you should come out, because at best it explains why in the future you should come out when things improve. But secondly, they explain that these exist only in very limited spaces, particularly the richest and most privileged areas in Kuala Lumpur. For the vast majority of Malaysia, which is not in Kuala Lumpur, this benefit does not apply. But secondly, it does not respond to the actual trends you provided of rights backtracking because of the incentive structures of Islamist parties like PAS to rise to power and restrict the rights that exist under their side. So, this mitigation is not enough to explain why it's unlikely that you will be jailed for being gay, as Ina pointed out, or it's unlikely for you to be discriminated in the workplace because there's no anti-discrimination bill, or why in quite conservative societies, you are likely to be victims of hate crimes and the social discrimination in these streets. That mitigation from Farhan is not enough for them to win this debate. The last thing they then said was, well, if you're discriminated, you can move out. I think this is a very, very privileged claim. For the vast majority of people, as Ina pointed out, they can't move out because moving out to more liberal societies means that you have to spend a lot more in rent versus you being able to afford the quality of living standards that exist. So this option cannot stand for the vast majority of LGBT people if you're talking about in today's debate. The next claim they said was, in liberal spaces, the problem is the fact that there's a lack of diversity in the portrayals they have. So they're conceding that there is an expectation right now, if you're a queer person, to restrict your identity to subscribe to or fix to the current identity of being extremely flamboyant. That harms their case because it's unclear why one individual coming out and that diversity or that body count will change the narrative of gay people, which means that you as an individual are likely to be doubly excluded in liberal spaces. You're not just harmed by the conservative community, but if you try to divert from the LGBT standards right now, even LGBT members will say that you're not truly gay and you're not protected under their side. What I want to do now is weigh the benefit of pursuing your sexual identity versus all the other harms you provide. Because my response to Farhan's introduction is, as a queer person, yes, your identity, sexual identity might be important to you. But it's a lie to say that's your only and most important identity. As a queer person, you also want to have your economic success. You also want to maintain your religion and keep friends with other people. You also want to have protection of safety. All of these, at worst case in government, are equally important to your identity, and just numerically we're able to protect them more than versus this one individual instance of sexual identity that exists on your side. But secondly, we have to note here that the person is staying in the closet, right? So he has never explored the sexual identity yet. The values of identities as a whole are reinforced and they become more important to you the more you get used to them and that you practice them. Right? So we would argue that the value of a sexual identity of someone who is in the closet is probably less important to him than the connections he's already made with his family, the connections he has been able to make for his job. So in our worst case where we trade off the sexual identity, we are fine doing that because there are more important pursuits that a queer person has to fight for. So we have explained to you why it is better for us to get for you as an individual. I think what Shermay tries to imply then is you have an obligation to the rest of the movement and explain why they get it better under their side. I think there are two values of coming out that they try to identify. One is just the body count. At best, this is a marginal difference because there are not that many, like adding one person in the field of maybe like 1,000 people who are openly out in the country or in a specific society will not really change the difference of acceptance on the basis of other people seeing you gay. But the second benefit they claim is, well, you were able to persuade your allies. Again, this is quite marginal because you as an individual also have the double-edged sword of they might also dislike you and hate you and you lose your allies. So I'm unclear where you get the benefit. So the marginal change of acceptance under their said house, while might exist, is quite minimal. But how do we get it under our said house? We would suggest it is actually easier to fight for rights when you're in the closet where people don't think you are gay versus under their side where they think you are. There are three structural reasons for this. The first is because you're more likely to gain political and economic power and ability for you to lobby rights, the point at which you're not discriminated from your job when you have a high-paying job because you're not discriminated in the workplace. That means you have more money to funnel into things like campaigns, more money to influence politics, more money to do all of the benefits you're able to fight for. Or one, sure, Farhansyah.
Attack against us is why the visibility of the movement only increases by one. Why is one person at your side able to amass this amount of political capital and funding to fight for those rights that you want to talk about?
Oh, that's nice because when you're able to accumulate political power, your voice as one individual increases versus under your side, which is the second reason, is likely to be silenced. Note that if you start protesting in the streets, but you're openly gay under their side, and the conservatives want to stop you, they now have a mechanism to arrest you, to keep you silent, because they can find out that you're gay, look for you, and stalk you until they're able to track evidence that you've done the homosexual act under your side of the house. So a power of one individual under our side is stronger when you have greater economic and political power versus under your side of the house where you are silenced. But thirdly, we would suggest you are more persuasive, assuming you have some political capital to influence politics, if you're seen as a straight or not an openly gay individual. The reason for this is majority of Malaysia is not LGBT, and majority of them identify as heterosexual. So it's easier for you to empathize with them and connect with these individuals if you say that as a non-gay individual, I still empathize with the rights of the LGBT movement, and that's why I'm able to persuade other people to support my cause. But secondly, the vast majority of the LGBT movement in Malaysia are not openly gay, right? And the harmful narrative that they want to reinforce on their side is that you have to be out, you have to be proud for you to be able to lobby for your rights. If you believe that your body count matters, it is better for you to change that narrative and explain that you don't need to be out and you can still advocate for the rights of the movement. In conclusion, while we trade off your sexual identity, that is not the most important thing for you as an LGBT member. But secondly, we suggest we are better at getting the rights and the fight when you're not openly gay in Malaysia. We're very proud to propose. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister. I'd like to invite Deputy Leader of Opposition to sit here.
Here. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
That works.
Hello. All right. Well, every other facet of your identity might be something that you try or you can distance yourself from in order to escape the misery of discrimination. Sexuality is the one in which it's very difficult to. And it's also one in which we face harms either way. The reason for this is that all human beings innately want to find love. That they always want to have someone they can call a soulmate, that they feel as if they've met their lives and hope. But more importantly, our psyche and our society are structured in a manner in which we expect you to get married, we expect you to have your own social structure in which you're able to get emotional solace and financial support from. That is why we have the institution of marriage. But the problem is that on the other side of the house, and let's make the comparative very clear, they either stand for a world in which you get married and you lie to your family, all the while feeling entirely lonely and having children, for example, that are born out of a loveless marriage, or two, you are in a scenario in which you don't do that, you don't get married and you live your life entirely alone, while also still facing the exact same discrimination because people think you are fundamentally broken for not being able to find a partner. I think that with regards to the ability of this individual to be able to live a happy life, while there might be some problems with safety, we cannot let them get away with this characterization that there are absolutely no costs whatsoever. So I think that this description on the part of Nacho to say that people care about other facets of identity more so than they do about their sexuality is a false one. Because I think that sexuality is something that is very innate and very, very fundamental in a human being. Firstly, because obviously we want to find love, but secondly also because this means that in the future we'll never have support because all your other friends are also getting married. They're moving on to a different stage of life that you're not a part of, they have children and they don't have time for you any longer. You're going home every day to a cold and lonely bed. But more importantly, and I think more than that, interactions with human beings are always something that in which sexuality plays an inherent function. Everything like, for example, how sexual desire is something that people cannot control. Romantic feelings are things that you cannot control. When you interact with a member of the opposite gender, they see you as someone that you could potentially fall in love with, but you don't see them the same way. You might fall in love with a friend of yours that is also of that same gender, for instance. But thank you. All of these things suggest that you cannot just cut off your sexuality as one part of your identity, but rather it's something that affects all other interactions that you could possibly have. I want to then talk about what is individuals necessarily like. Because on their side, they were very uncharitable by saying they would defend a homosexual individual in Kelantan. Right? Here's the reason why that's not true. I think firstly, the process by which people are able to discover that they are homosexual is a very difficult one. Most people are born believing that they are heterosexual. And as a result, they often have to go through a long period of introspection, of trying to identify things about themselves, the way that they interact with other people, and the things that they have, in order to be able to accept that particular reality of themselves. They are not born with the knowledge that they could potentially be homosexual because that is not something that is apparent to them at all times. The thing is, and the important thing that we definitely need to know is this, that for you to be able to understand what homosexuality is like, you are not in a conservative society. Because in a conservative society, where you don't even talk about sex, where sexuality is definitely a taboo, you can never conceptualize of yourself as a person who deviates from the norm, but you will always live a life in which you're trying to figure out why exactly you're different, thank you, from everyone else. That is why we see so many homosexual individuals, for instance, who used to believe that they were straight. So you are probably quite an urbanized individual, you are probably also fairly educated and probably have a university degree. Therefore, we think that you are an individual who does still have the ability to gain the kind of economic empowerment, perhaps not being able to be the face of a company, but at least some ability to survive in this world today. That is who we are talking about. Why then do we think this is particularly important? I think one, there was very little response to our argument that even if it was true that you couldn't do much as a single individual, which we reject, we think that as long as you realize, or as long as you understand that being silent means that you know the harm that will happen to LGBT individuals because you see it every day in your life, you are complicit the harms that you have done against them because people want to do what they can in order to make things better. Our mechanism for victory was very simple. At a societal level, we said that we need more activists. There was a nascent movement and required support. That the visibility of homosexuality was important because it needed to be seen as something other than the aberration of nature that was far more common than what we believed in. They told us that's not true. That as a straight person campaigning for this, you are far more important. The mechanism was simple. You have more political and economic power. Yet at the same time, they told us, because you are a multiplicity of identities, you somehow do not care that much about sexuality. If you were an individual who was going to devote all of your economic and political resources towards the fight for LGBT, I'm uncertain as to why your characterization of what in which people will crush you is not also going to be true of you on either side. They then said no. That means that you're going to get arrested. We say that I think that it is possible for you to maintain yourself in areas in which it is likelier that you are able to be safe, but also be more charitable. There are gay activists in Malaysia, there are trans activists in Malaysia. Yes, their lives are not easy, but they have chosen to take that sacrifice in order to fight for the better good. They have not been arrested, they have not been shut down just yet. And I think that even to the extent to which that might potentially happen to you, but we think that you can take precautions to stop or stop that from happening, I think that's still a risk that we are willing to take. Because at the end of the day, it is not enough for you to say that we ought to wait around for things to get better before we are able to do anything or come out of the closet. Because at the end of the day, if everyone thought that way, you will never be able to get the kind of life that you want. But what really is the problem here? I think that firstly, personally speaking, that you can create a lot of change in your own circles as well. One, just the fact that in your social circle there is now someone that is out of the closet means you empower someone else around you who may potentially be struggling with the exact same problem in just 1 second to be able to understand who they are as well. Before that, yes.
Do you think that all LGBT members search for marriage or search for the ability for them to have a romantic partner for them?
I think not all of them do. I think a significant number of them do. I think most human beings do want to do that. That's why marriage is still an institution, and that's something that most gay rights movements in the world still fight for anyway. If you're gonna do this debate on the one individual who does not want a partner, I think that's probably false. But also, even if I don't necessarily want a partner for life, I think I would like to have some relationships in my life because that is something that's fulfilling and something that gives me happiness. I think the second reason why on a personal level you can create change is this: that a lot of the times we think that something that we don't understand and don't know is something that we can discriminate against because it is easy to say that something is haram, it's easy to say that something is wrong at a point at which you don't understand and don't know who those people are. It is far harder for these individuals who are your friends and family to say the same thing about you at a point at which you come up to them and say, this is me, I am the same person, and I am what you have always railed against. I think we are far more likely to be able to change these people to be the very straight allies that you said was going to happen. You are not just one person any longer, you are the gay individual who's fighting for that fight, and you are also your family members and your friends who are straight and fighting for that fight. At the end of the day, we need to think about how we want to change the world. I think it's not enough to say that we only want to prioritize our own self-interest, and even if we did, the comparative is still one in which we live half a life. I think we should take a shot at the full life.
I thank Deputy Law Opposition for that speech. I'd like to invite Government Whip Filoteo.
This side of the house says, finding love, getting married, is what majority and all people want. Ew. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true that a lot of people want to find love. In fact, I think there are a lot of happy single people in the world. And it's possible for you to live a happy, fulfilling life without ever having to look for love, fulfillment, in a romantic partner. We think if you look at it, at best, the benefit of a support system, the benefit of anything you can get in a romantic relationship is transferable to any other support system you have. You can find it in friends, you can find it in family. They haven't explained to us what is so exclusive to romantic relationships that we must pursue that above all things that are necessary, such as job security or even personal security and safety. So you need to weigh this one benefit over all the other basic necessities we are trying to protect for LGBT individuals. I don't think they were sufficient to do that. But just to crystallize why love isn't important. We think a lot of our perceptions of love and marriage are shaped by media that we see. We think love is important because we watch so many rom-coms and think that the pursuit of life should be dedicated to finding someone perfect for us. When in actuality, we don't think that's true. Many people have lived happy lives without ever looking for love, and we think a world where people didn't pursue this above all things is going to give them a happier life. But if you look at it, they pursue this under the presumption that when you come out, life will be happy and great, happy and amazing for them. But they've never proved to us why that's the case. Like, okay, let's go to the first contention. Is Malaysia liberal enough for people to not have to fear their safety and economic security? Their only proof is threefold. One, RuPaul's Drag Race is accessible, gay bars are accessible, and there are activists in this world. Let me explain why these aren't enough to prove that people are safe when they come out. First, we said, yeah, sure, these things exist, but only in very exclusive, rich areas that are inaccessible to the vast majority of cases. It's unclear to me why they seem to assume that the only people who come out are exclusively rich people. There are many poor people who are intersectionally gay and poor, and you are given access to any of these spaces on your side of the house. But in fact, the fact that these are the perceptions, or these are what Malaysians think gay people are exactly the reason why when you come out, there is a threshold to how much they accept you. They pin you up to what they see on RuPaul's Drag Race. They perceive gay people to be what they see on gay bars, which means even when you come out, you cannot be yourself. You can't be a gay person and like sports at the same time. You can't be a gay person and not be flamboyant because their acceptance of you is dependent on you fulfilling the stereotypes of what they've seen on RuPaul's Drag Race and these gay bars. So we don't think it's really true acceptance on their side of the house. But we won this debate further because we gave you societal structures that convince people that prevent people from truly being accepted. First, we gave you that there is a huge prominence of religions such as Islam, who say that being gay is a sin. We have huge educational institutions, IIU and Mara, that don't allow people to really be gay openly in their own universities, and that perpetuate a lot of anti-liberal sentiments. You also have Malaysia being seen as the ideal Malaysian state by countries like Bangladesh, which make it difficult for Malaysia to truly be liberal now and change contexts immediately. Even other religions like Christianity think it's a sin as well. And because of years of misunderstanding, because of RuPaul's Drag Race exactly, and a lot of things like gay bars, you have to undo so much before you get this change. So what does this all prove? If you come out now, the harms of economic security and physical security are sure, because the context of now is not enough to convince people to be accepting of you. But this debate wasn't just about the now. It was also a question of where are we more likely to get change as well. When Sher argues, well, you were being complicit. We never said you should just sit down and take all the abuse, ladies and gentlemen. What came from Ignacio was that there is a better mechanism to fight for LGBT rights without having to come out unresponded to by the previous speaker. What are the two things that are necessary to fight for change? One, you need to attract political mass, and two, you need to get policy change. So if I can prove that these two things are better achieved than Gov, then they have no mechanism to accept change. And in fact, if you look at it, the extent of their change is so limited, because Sher says it's not actually societal change, it's actually just in your small circles. So they don't even promise actual societal change, but in Farhan's speech they do. They probably have to resolve that in whip. So first, where do you get better political mass? We think it just takes one instance of a hate crime or an unjust detention to convince everybody not to come out. This is likely to be sensationalized. This is likely to be shown all across Malaysian media, which means if one person is detained, everybody else is unlikely to come out as well. You don't have political mass on your side of the house. So the first necessity for political change, you don't get on your side. But second, where do you get policy change? And this is where Ignacio becomes important. Sher says it's going to be successful because you devote all your time. Well, yeah, you can do that on either side, but the question is, where is it most likely to be effective? The difference here is the size of the pie that you're giving up. On their side, where you have a less good job, and you have a job that doesn't pay you as well, the size of the pie, the amount of resources you're giving up is significantly smaller. On our side, where you're more likely to get hired, more likely to get promotions, you have more resources to fight for LGBT rights. So the likelihood of the success of your movement is going to be significantly better. We don't even know if people are going to get hired or get resources on their side of the house. But next, they say you can talk to people in your small circles. Yeah, you can do the same thing on your side. But the question is the likelihood of reception. We said it's better when you don't appear selfish and when you have the authority of a straight person, since a lot of conservative people don't even want to interact with gay people in general. So the first thing we have over them is the initial interaction. But second, the position of credibility, because you don't look personally invested in the cause. On their side, they're likely to discredit all your arguments because you are personally invested and because they don't see your credibility. So where is change really more likely? It's our side also. But last, let me just weigh the importance of basic things like security and economic empowerment over sexuality. I've already proven that it's transferable, but additional reasons to prove why it's more important is one. This is something that everybody in the LGBT community wants. They want the job, they also want safety, but you don't know if everybody wants marriage, so we actually protect the interest of the majority of people. But second, since change on our side isn't within small circles and large societal reforms, because you can access the helms of power, we help more LGBT individuals on our side, and we actually help the most vulnerable. Their side will only affect change in small privileged areas that are likely already liberal. But on our side, where you infiltrate the institutions by appearing straight and then allowing the change to take place, that is where you're more likely to get credible change. That is where you're more likely to help the greater majority of those who are part of the movement. Thank you.
I thank God for that speech and substantive speeches. I invite opposition whip to here.
As a young and very, very stupid girl who was unfamiliar with the world. When I joined debating, I had 3 gay coaches. They allowed me to open my mind and to actually widen how I think of gay people and gay rights as a whole. Because once I actually managed to talk to them and become closer to them, I managed to change my mindset of what I even thought of them in the first place. And because of how close I was, right, this connection allowed me to broaden my scope. And that's something that can never happen. They weren't so open with me and they didn't come out to me at all. Now, there were 2 main clashes with debate so far. Firstly, about personal safety of the individual, and secondly, about acceptance of the individual, for which I have 3 rebuttals for. But now, firstly, let's just talk about the personal safety of the individual. Let's just talk about the context that was brought up by side government. The only context they ever really mentioned in the case of the personal safety of the individual, right, was that this is going to harm them in the ultra-conservative states. And we actually, right, we see on side opposition, we already mentioned in our first speaker, and we realize that the mindsets of people in these ultra-conservative states, they're already changing. Like the context that was brought up by Farhan of the minister gay sex scandal, we realize that these people are already in a position of power. So we see that usually these people, they have the most influence over people in the ultra-conservative states. So when they actually are seen to be gay, this is going to start changing mindsets and to start creating discourse within these ultra-conservative states. Maybe fine, we'll accept that if it's not exactly the best. However, it is starting some sort of discussion on the topic of gay rights, no thank you, in these ultra-conservative states. And fine, let's just say that even if there was a harm to personal safety in such states, or maybe even in this ultra-conservative states, right? There's 2 things to this. Firstly, we already said that we're going to do this year, yes, by Farhan, and that these people, they're only going to move to more liberal states where they're going to be able to be accepted and where the harms of them actually being discriminated against are not going to be as frequent as it would be in these ultra-conservative states. Secondly, we realize also that in my first speaker, that these individuals, their chances are right, they're going to be well educated from the very recognition of their own rights and the lack of their rights in these ultra-conservative states. This means that the chances are right, they actually are going to move to much more liberal states so that they can actually have some sort of, so that they can actually fulfill the rights that they are supposed to have as being a gay person in Malaysia. Now on to my second clash about the acceptance of the individual. No, thank you. Now let's just talk about actually the trend that's happening in Malaysia. We see that PAS lost everywhere except in Kelantan and Terengganu. And we see that the reason why they lost is actually because many people are tired of clinging onto culture at the expense of progression. We see that this can happen very similarly with sexual orientation. We see that this is actually very similar to what's going to happen in the possible future, as I've said already, in the current status quo. Because we realize that mindsets are already changing, and that people are so tired of having the same life and having the same and facing the same sort of discrimination, and they're willing to actually forego this in order to have some sort of progression. Now, I have 3 rebuttals for today. No, thank you. Now, firstly, let's just deal with the very main principle of side government about this acceptance of individuals, which is that these people are not going to be accepted. And since they already have, no thank you, they already have such a large connection to their family, the chances of them being ostracized is going to be greater. So we have 2 things to discuss, right? Firstly, we see that these people are going to be accepted, since you realize that the families, they actually do love them, and that if they actually, these families actually do love these individuals, and that these parents, right, they actually have some sort of inherent right to be able to know their child for who they actually are, instead of them, these individuals suppressing themselves and forfeiting their parents their rights to actually get to know their own child for who they actually are. But fine, let's just say that maybe they're not going to be accepted 100%. We see that no matter what, right, they're not going to be accepted 100% into society. But we realize that there's still going to be some sort of communities that accept them. And because of that, they're still going to be able to live a happier life, because they're going to be 100% true to who they are, instead of just suppressing and oppressing who they actually are deep down. No, thank you. And so now they actually say that even if they are accepted, then there's going to be a certain mold that they have to fit in order for them to be accepted. Now, we say, right, already showed me that this is when coming out is actually the most pivotal and the most important thing.
the most important thing for the community, because only then we're going to be able to show people that there are different types of people in the community itself. From this, we're going to be able to change mindsets. And how exactly are we actually going to have this sort of influence? Like I said in my starting, right, when people are actually closer to someone who is gay and they actually come out to them, then they're going to start accepting them. They're going to start changing their own opinions on the gay movement as a whole. And this can only happen if we come out, and this is going to actually shift mindsets and allow for the individuals to be happier. Since they're going to be who they are, they're going to be true to who they are 100%, and they're going to allow their families to love them 100%. Now, secondly, they say that in conservative states, there's a lack of anti-discrimination laws. Like I said already, right? No, thank you. Now, right now, because of the gay sex scandal, right, there's a lot of discourse that's going to happen, and because of this, right, it's going to pave the way of changing for this. Because you realize that now in our own government, there's already so many people who are of the same movement. They're going to start preaching for this movement themselves. And we see that actually, right, politicians themselves are more this is my next rebuttal, I'm sorry. So on to my third rebuttal today about the political and economic capital and how this is only achievable on-site government. No, thank you. So we say, right, that this is actually arbitrary because we actually don't know if we can get it on site government whatsoever. But fine, let's say that even if it isn't arbitrary, right, that somehow they can achieve it on site government. We see that no matter what, right, in our position, we can fulfill this as well. Because we're going to be able to find pockets that are going to be able to achieve this very thing as well. And we see that, and two things about the economic capital, right? We see that one, corporations don't care if this individual is gay so long as they're good at their work. And secondly, if we're just talking about like job interviews and that people are going to discriminate them just because they're gay, we see that this is not going to be the case because it's not always 100% apparent that someone is gay. Because just like you and just like everyone here, right, you don't really know what their sexual orientation is because you can't just tell from looking at someone what their sexual orientation is. So they're going to be able to get these job interviews as well. And we see that the individuals that can actually choose not to show like their sexual orientation. But we say, right, this can't happen on site government because they're not giving them this individual the freedom to actually express themselves how they want at all. And we also say, right, on-site government, that this still doesn't make sense because if they've been hiding their identity there, it's going to take them a long period of time for them to be able to get this capital. And we say that it's still going, that people are going to get suspicious when you start lobbying for queer rights. And because of this, right, I'm so very proud to oppose. Please let me Balik. Thank you.
And thank you for that speech. To begin replies, speeches, and I invite all reply. Thank you.
Government gives us a very flimsy characterization and then attempts to justify it by dropping the names of random places they've been to in KL and talking about how some are conservative, but the place me feels it is not so conservative, for example. I think let's talk about what it actually was like, because if you just look at their characterization in and of itself, they talk about a scenario in which there are some safe spaces and some places where you can advocate and campaign for gay rights without anything happening to you. There have been some political power and some economic leverage means that you can change things drastically as a straight person. Yet they are still saying that in this exact same place, there is no point in you coming out as gay, that this means that you're going to get beaten out on the street, you're going to get fired from your job, and etc. I think their characterization is quite contradictory. So what exactly did we want to talk about? We told you that past isn't a religious revival. In fact, past lost everywhere because people were saying that we are tired of UMNO trying to use our religion against us. We want some progression, even if it means a somewhat slightly slightly more liberal party. Trends are not as bad. But as long as these safe spaces exist, we told you could be smart about the way that you chose to come out as an individual. That you don't have to lose your job because you don't have to go to your interview wearing a floral pink shirt and wearing a pride flag on your backpack and going, this is what you must take me as if I was to get this job. We told you that it meant you could be out to your friends, that you could campaign on the street, but not necessarily something your employer cares about. But secondly, we also said you're probably in an urban area, you're probably somewhat empowered when it comes to university graduation, having a cert. We told you that there was no reason why your company would fire you if you were fundamentally competent in your job anyway. But their side didn't want to engage with the comparative because all they told us was, oh look, people can be single and happy anyway. But in society that's already structured towards marriage, we told you that you cannot just run away and say that your life will be exactly the same, that you will still feel discrimination, perhaps not as bad as that of being gay, for instance, in certain areas, but you will still feel the discrimination, and the worst part is you would have to go through the discrimination alone. The next thing that we then wanted to talk about is whether or not change can necessarily happen. They said, just remain in the closet, but be a flaming gay activist anyway. Dedicate your life's work towards becoming a politician that will be the one who legalizes gay marriage in Malaysia. As if in the exact same characterization that they tell us is going to happen, you will not similarly be discriminated against, you will not similarly be shut down as well. But secondly, we told you that what they lose on their side then is the ability for individuals to be more likely to listen to you, at least in your personal circles. They said, oh my God, they said, people are likely to listen to you about gay rights if you're not seen as being selfish. Because when I look at you and I see a gay person fighting for gay rights, I'm like, aha, self-interested, clearly not a good thing. As opposed to thinking that it's your identity and something that I want to respect you for, that you want the exact same right that I do. But secondly, we also told you that it is, that's what's more likely they will accept you if it's your identity as opposed to your political view. That's how we're able to get more allies. But also we said that they were open to hearing about gay rights from you as a straight person. Why wouldn't they be open to accepting you as a gay person given that you are their friend? I still don't think that made any sense. The next thing that we also wanted to talk about is that this idea of people entering into the halls of power, right, is at best ambiguous and incredibly small in terms of its likelihood. We told you that we gave you immediate benefits, that you have greater visibility, that you add numbers to the movement, that you're able to campaign on the ground and do what little change that you are, that you could be the face of that movement at the very least among your community, if not in the rest of the world. It only takes the decision of a few of these people in order to create that movement. But the last thing that we want to talk about, this idea of acceptance in the gay community. You will never be truly accepted if you don't conform to the stereotype of what a gay person truly is like. Look, in the gay community, they're all gay. They know that they are gay, not by choice. That they are gay and they are still the person that they are. Therefore, I think that even if you didn't act like RuPaul, Brooklyn, Evie Oddly, and all the other people that we enjoy watching, I still think that they will accept you because they know that at the end of the day, you just want to look for that love. End story.
I reply to that speech. Like to end this event, like Dr. Clark, take it.
I'm not quite certain we won this debate, because from upwhip to upreply, they changed their stance a bit to harm their case. From upwhip to upreply, they then said, we can be smart about coming out. So we can come out to some people, but we don't have to tell our employer. We can have some boyfriend, but to hide the boyfriend. The problem here is, all of your benefits are contingent on you being public. Your ability to find love, your ability to have a relationship, your ability to get married under your side of the house is contingent on people being able to be proud of the relationship. The point at which you hide it, I'm uncertain where you get the benefits. But secondly, the reason why you have to be consistent is because a lot of people like talking gossip, right? It is easy for these things to spread, that's why it is necessary for you to hide it on your side. Two questions I want to ask. The first is self-interest. What's the interest of this person? And secondly, how you get change. But before I want to point out that our argument for getting change was an engagement to them. Even if you don't believe government gets change under our side, what's more important is the self-interest of the individual on our side. We said there are trade-offs to coming out. Your economic safety, your protection, other relationships beyond your romantic relationship like your friends, your religion, etc. etc. These harms don't just exist in Kalentang. Don't let them misrepresent you. This exists even in KL, where relatively not super liberal societies, but relatively conservative societies exist. Their mitigation was not enough. First, they run trends in Farhan, then they drop these trends of change. Secondly, they said, you must be a privileged person because you have to learn in university that you are gay. I really don't understand this logic. When we pointed out in my speech that being gay, being trans, being lesbian is an innate thing that people don't dictate to you, I'm uncertain as to why you have to learn it. Which is why they have to accept these trade-offs and explain to us why it's more important under their side. Versus us, where we're able to successfully mitigate the sexual identity and gender identity value. We concede we have less of that under our side, but two things. The first is, it was mitigated by the fact that even if you come out, there are limited spaces by which you can be free, there are limited areas where you can be yourself, and therefore that benefit is very minimal. But secondly, to the extent that you do come out, and Farhan conceded to this, the LGBT community right now has specific stereotypes that box you in, so your sexual identity will still not be free, but conform to yourself as an individual. They tried to rebut it at reply, but I don't think you can credit that if leader of opposition conceded it already. Which means that we have to weigh this marginal increase in sexual identity to the increase or the trade-off of all the harms we provided. The problem is, the only attempt to explain why your sexual identity is important was the claim coming from Sher that marriage and love is a universal need and human pursuit. That was asserted, we pointed out, but that's not true. And secondly, that we need to have partners, we need to have support systems, which Mika responded to by saying these can be transferred to your family, these can be transferred to your friends. So at best, you have to see your sexual identity as equally important to you as a gay person versus all the other benefits or trade-offs you want. But what they did respond to was my explanation as why, if you're not out yet, it's probably true that your sexual identity is less important. For the self of this debate, we take it already. But secondly, how do we get change? Their analysis is, when you come out to your auntie and uncle, they will accept you for who you are. Half the time that's not true, half the time they'll send you out of your house, it's uncertain how you get change. We said, we can tell your auntie and uncle if they love you to care about gay people without having to come out and risk the fact that they're not able to listen to you. It is more persuasive because you're telling them as a non-gay person and non-selfish desire. But second, we said, on a macro scale, this is where they misrepresent us heavily, right? We said it is easier to rally if people, at best, or worst case for golf, have suspicions that you are gay because they cannot put you in jail, they cannot punish you because there's no evidence that you're gay. Versus on your side, where Farhan also wants people to rally, but they're certainly gay, and therefore it's easier to prosecute them under their side of the house. So yes, it might be hard, but it's a comparison of likelihoods under our side. So at the end of this debate, we prioritize the interest of the self. We have been able to prove why we get change as well. We're very proud to take this championship. Happy birthday, Sher.
There's no tie first round, right?
Alright, let's give them a round of applause for the great finals. Okay, so for now we're gonna wait for the result from the judges. We're gonna take a 10 minutes toilet break. You guys can go to the toilet stuff. Yeah, and we'll see you later in 10 minutes.